Sifo Dyas and Count Dooku weren't just fellow masters, but they were good friends who shared many common viewpoints about the Republic. In the original story, Dooku manipulated his friend into creating the clone army and then killed him to prove his loyalty to Darth Sidious. But what if Sifo Dyas joined Count Dooku? One day at the Jedi Temple, after a deep meditation, Sifo Dyas would confide in his friend Dooku about his fear and visions of a looming conflict. Dooku at this time is already aligned with Sidious, so knows what he senses is their future war. Dooku hears Sifo Dyas out, but rushes to Sidious to explain what his friend has told him. Sidious orders Dooku to manipulate Sifo Dyas to give in to his fear and place an order for the clone army on Kamino and then kill him. Dooku knows he has to do this to prove his loyalty to Darth Sidious, but feels some guilt about what he has to do. He confronts his friend in his personal chambers to continue the conversation they had earlier. Dooku goes to manipulate him, but gets cold feet and can't bring himself to do it. He then realizes that his friend could be a powerful ally. They share many viewpoints, and Dyas could be pivotal to their cause. Dooku takes the initiative and reveals everything to his friend about the planned war and the Sith. Dooku believes aligning themselves with the Sith is the only way to move the galaxy forward and rid any corruption. Dyas is skeptical at first, but Dooku manages to convince him. Dooku knows he's in trouble. He's revealed everything without Sidious's permission, and they might suffer the consequences. He brings Dyas back with him to Sidious and explains how he will be a powerful ally and has agreed to join them. Sidious is not happy, and the thought of executing them both there and there crosses his mind. But he stays within reason. He knows Dooku is essential to the plan of the Separatist movement, and he understands how much he needs him, so decides he cannot do anything but accept Dyas as one of their own. Sidious begins training the two Sith, and their knowledge of the dark side begins to increase. Two highly respected masters leaving the Jedi Order dealt a heavy blow. Following Qui-Gon's death, Dooku was fed up and decided to leave the Order without any explanation. Sifo Dyas followed. The Sith now have a problem. No one has created the clone army. They cannot do it under any of their names because they will draw attention back to them. They decided to do it under the facade of one of the existing council members, Ki-Adi-Mundi. Dyas introduces himself to the Kaminoans as Ki-Adi-Mundi and places the order for the clone army on behalf of the Jedi Council. To cover their tracks, they need to have him killed, so lure him out specifically on a mission they know the Jedi Council will send him thanks to Sifo Dyas' knowledge, and murder him. This could only be done thanks to Sifo Dyas' understanding of the Jedi Council. They begin laying the groundwork for the Separatist movement, and this takes almost 10 years. Through Dyas, Dooku, and Sidious' connections, they begin forming the Separatist Council. Dyas was from Manchi, a prominent world within the Cassandrian worlds, and begins negotiating to bring them all into the Separatists. This takes us to the events of Attack of the Clones, and the Separatist movement is complete. The Council is in its final establishments. All that is required is the Trade Federation backing. But first, Newt Gunray requires Padme Amidala's death as revenge for Naboo 10 years ago. Dooku mentions this final inconvenience to Sidious, who turns it into an opportunity. Amidala is opposed to the Demilitarization Act, so her death would benefit them. They could also use her to lure the Jedi to discovering the clone army. But Palpatine doesn't reveal that he knows Amidala's death will slowly help pull his prized possession, Anakin Skywalker, down the dark path. Although Anakin hasn't seen Amidala in 10 years, his emotional attachment to her is strong, and her death would be catastrophic. Jango Fett is hired specifically to lure the Jedi to Kamino. Obi-Wan follows him to Kamino and Anakin with Amidala on Naboo. Obi-Wan discovers Kamino and questions the cloners on the army, who reveal it was ordered by Ki-Adi-Mundi for the Republic. Obi-Wan is completely shocked by this revelation and contacts the Jedi Council at once. The Council is shocked by this and tell Obi-Wan that Mundi never had authority to do this. The Council believe the cloners that Mundi had placed the order and have no suspicions of the Sith. They don't suspect a thing. They recommend to Obi-Wan to question Fett for more answers. However, when Obi-Wan goes to do this, Fett is already escaping but manages to put a tracker on his ship and follow him to Geonosis. Obi-Wan overhears the Separatist Council discussing their plans but is captured by the guards. Dooku and Dyas confront Obi-Wan and attempts to convince him to join their cause, telling them Qui-Gon would have done it in a heartbeat. Obi-Wan genuinely considers it, but tells the fallen Jedi he will not join them. Obi-Wan is sentenced to death alongside Anakin and Padme, who came to save Obi-Wan but ultimately failed. Dyas and Dooku lead the execution, but the Jedi and clone army intervenes before it can succeed. Slightly worried, they escape together but are followed closely by Obi-Wan and Anakin. They confront Dooku and Sifo, and this time Anakin doesn't hastily rush forward. Obi-Wan and Anakin fight the Sith in a coordinated manner, but ultimately they are no match. Obi-Wan is killed, his chest pierced by Dooku's blade himself, and Anakin's hand is chopped off by Dyas. They have followed orders not to kill the Chosen One. They go to leave but are confronted by Yoda. The three fight fiercely, but Yoda isn't strong enough to defeat the two, so is forced to retreat. They take an unconscious Anakin back with them to the industrial region on Coruscant. Palpatine is absolutely delighted. He thought it would be impossible to get Anakin away from the Jedi and in his grasp without linking it to himself. It looks like Dyas and Dooku have captured him and has nothing to do with him. Palpatine knows he needs to use this opportunity, and with the help of Dyas and Dooku, they perform an ancient Sith ritual with Sith alchemy to pollute and corrupt Anakin's mind with the dark side and force it upon him. They wipe any ties from the light side and pull him over to the darkness. Palpatine begins training Anakin in the dark side. Dooku is leader of the Confederacy of Independent Systems and declares war on the Republic. With Dooku's leadership and Dyas' knowledge and resources, the Separatist movement would have been more formidable and successful in their fight against the Republic. The war goes on for over a year, and it's not looking good for the Republic. The dark side has never been stronger, and Sidious uses this to sense the presence of Darth Maul, still alive on Stobar, and brings him to his medical facility. He restores his legs, his mind, and Maul rejoins Sidious by his side along with the others. Maul only sees Dyas and Dooku as competition and strives to overtake them. Dooku has trained up Asajj Ventress and Grievous to a reasonable and competent level. The Sith's forces are strong and growing, and the Republic feel it. The stress of losing the war on the Republic and Jedi have caused them to become riddled with fear. The citizens of the Republic begin to lose faith in their leadership, and protests begin all over the galaxy. The Jedi's numbers are diminishing at a significant rate, with all hopes of winning the war vanishing before their eyes. To tip it off, Anakin Skywalker, fallen Jedi, joins in on the Clone War as Darth Vader and begins killing Jedi in unprecedented numbers. In a year and a half into the Clone War, Sidious believes the conflict has done its job. The people have lost faith in the Republic and the Jedi. There is a gap in power, and he will take it for himself. The Battle of Coruscant begins. The Separatist forces have arrived in huge numbers over the capital of the Republic. Dooku, Dyas, Grievous, Ventress, Anakin, Maul, and Sidious discreetly make their way onto the surface while Sidious reveals the plan. As they land outside the Jedi Temple, he gets out his comlink and connects it to every clone commander around the galaxy and mutters the words,
"Execute Order 66.
The Sith completely sacked the Jedi Temple with no survivors. Their forces along with the clones were no match for anyone inside, including Mace Windu and Yoda. Sidious proclaims himself Emperor of the Republic in front of the Senate and gets cheered all across the galaxy. Anakin and Sidious are in his office together, celebrating the success of Order 66 and the extermination of the Jedi, until they sense a potential threat making its way towards them. Dooku, Dyas, Grievous, Ventress, and Maul have joined forces against Sidious and Vader. They know alone they couldn't defeat them, but together they stand a chance. Dooku led this alignment and truce, as he realized his views differed from Sidious when he proclaimed himself Emperor of the Galaxy. They rush in and ignite their blades straight towards Sidious and Vader. The fight is glorious but brutal at the same time. Dooku almost gets the upper hand on Sidious, slicing half of his arm off, but Vader saves him by beheading Dooku. Anakin turns it up another gear, achieving a power no one in the room believed possible. Together, he and Sidious cut down the rest of the Sith, leaving only them alive. Sidious thanks his apprentice for the save, and he knows he couldn't have done it without him. But the dark side has fully taken over Anakin. All he desires is power. He goes to swing his blade at Sidious, but Sidious mutters the word,
sand.
causing Anakin to drop to the floor, wriggling in pain. Sidious laughs and stands over Anakin. He explains how he inserted a chip into his brain that overactivates his nervous system and causes immeasurable pain when he mutters the word sand.
Your soul is mine, boy. You will do everything I say without question. Always remember, your talent is a gift, and all gifts can be taken.
Anakin just stares at Sidious shocked. He has no choice but to follow Sidious's commands.
Oh, and if the chip is exposed by accident or otherwise, it will detonate, and then you will die.
Vader acts as Sidious's puppet for years, helping to exterminate what Jedi remained, build up their empire, control countless worlds, and with the creation of the Death Star. But enough was enough to Vader. He had lost all will to live. He had nothing. He goes to Tatooine, to his mother's grave.
I'm sorry, Mother.
As he puts his lightsaber to his heart and ignites it.